So we get the post-processing stack. You import that. You right-click, create post-processing profile. Then in your first-person character, you add component, start typing post, processing behavior. That's all you have to do to create it. Now, I would recommend you have your game view down here, like I do, so you can see kind of like what you're going to be working on. So now the great thing about the new post-processing profile is you don't have to go into the camera to edit stuff. Now you can just edit this profile that you created. So my post or whatever in your project. So if you just click that, you'll see it's going to open up a bunch of things here on the side. So let's start with a few of them. So let's start with ambient occlusion, right? So check that on. You should already see a little noticeable shadow effect on your scene.
It'll show up in both the game and the...
it should show up in the scene view as well, the ambient occlusion. The other stuff won't as much though. But yeah, so ambient occlusion, so if you just expand that, right, you can see there you have intensity and radius. Now radius, what it does is it basically controls the distance of how far those types of shadows reach. So it depends on the look that you're going for. A good look sometimes is to have the radius like something big, like 1.5, and then to put the intensity down, it just kind of gives like a little soft shadows. Or to put the radius smaller and the intensity high, so you can have these kind of like sharp edge shadows. It really just kind of depends on the look that you want to go for. Sample count, just, you know, the higher the, and if you turn on down sampling, you'll really see, you know, the effect become a lot more pronounced. If you do this high precision, then it seems to show up in the scene view better as well. But you don't have to. So that's one thing. Then if we keep going, right? So we have depth of field. We might not use this one, but I can just kind of explain how it works a little bit. So if you just check on depth of field, you'll notice you have, you know, the f-stop. If you make it like something smaller. And I just recommend you check on this use camera FOV, which is use camera field of view. And yeah, what that basically does is it makes sure to use your specific camera's like field of view, so you won't have a different setting when your camera is bigger or smaller. So here you can tweak like the focus distance and stuff, so you can get like if I if you make the aperture f-stop something small, like 0.6, or you kind of tweak these settings until you maybe just blur out the background just a little bit. And you
really pixelated.
That's the anti-aliasing. I was having the exact same problem.
So now we kind of have this blurred effect
preset
for the distance things without
with. And then we can see the difference.
Might be an effect you want to go for or not.
Just hover your mouse through it and then you zoom it.
Sometimes it's great if your background really looks like shit. Blur it out a little bit, it'll look great. Like. So that's without width. The other one, so motion blur. This I wouldn't recommend you use it too much in VR. It could work sometimes, and it's kind of like what the name implies is basically it has this little kind of like, you know.
Mine just went dark.
Where? For depth of field?
No, everything. Like when I hit play.
Oh yeah, you go into your lighting settings, and you should have the auto calculate on the window and lighting settings.
Nice.
And just do auto generate.
Yeah,
that's gonna fix itself.
Cool.
So that's basically when a scene is unlit. That's what it looks like, all dark like that.
Alright.
No calculated lighting. So now if you press play, it should look fine.
Camera facing.
I think because you created a new camera, or what? You put the guy somewhere.
I created this platform way up high.
Oh yeah. Yeah, then let's kind of go down this list some more. Yeah, motion blur could be cool. Again, it's kind of up to you. Eye adaptation is interesting. So eye adaptation only works on certain platforms, usually the newer ones. But let me just kind of explain what this does, right?
Great.
So eye adaptation actually is what the name implies. It adapts to your eyes. So like if you look at like a bright spot, everything will kind of darken a little bit. If you look at like a dark spot, everything will kind of lighten up a little bit. I don't know if I can kind of show the effect here. But if I just go, let's see here. What if I make something really bright? Like,
Dark.
Mission. So I'm not going to work that well. Let me try to tweak those settings. I think that's I don't know why I can't get it to work right. Again, it just takes some settings tweaking. Bloom. So bloom is interesting, right? So it could be definitely a very overused effect. But what bloom does, it kind of gives that little bit of a glow. And where you actually can see the bloom become noticeable is when the threshold, you lower it. So what the threshold does is it basically, when something is a value of 1, it's like a over bright. It's like a perfect, like, you know, lit pixel. So if anything goes under that threshold, bloom will kind of make it glow. So the more you lower the threshold, the more objects will glow in your scene. So see, if I have a very low threshold, it'll look like this, very, very much glowing. And the intensity, if you bump it up, you know, you can OD it. But I always recommend the threshold. You put it just slightly under your brightest objects, and the intensity. Now, what's interesting here is the texture. So there's a dirt texture. You can actually click that, and you can start typing lens. If you click that little circle next to it, and you'll see the post-processing effects comes with a few lens dirt textures. You just pick one. So just over here, when you click, you just start typing lens. You'll see there should be 4 lens dirt textures should show up. So just pick one. And now, if in my game view, if I make, you know, the threshold really low and the intensity, you can see that it's using that lens dirt as like as the
Yeah.
right. So that also can give it like a nice little kind of effect.
Oh, so you can. I see.
So that's like technically like what the lens on your camera, if it had some speckles or something like that, it kind of makes it reactive to that. This can have a mixed effect in VR. Sometimes it could be good, sometimes not. I would recommend keeping the intensity of that low, of that texture, because in VR what that can sometimes look like is just literally like something on your face, like, and you just kind of want to wipe it off.
Yeah.
So very subtle, I would say. So threshold almost close to 1, and intensity, not too much, not too little. Just like 1 is always good, I'd say. Then, like, if you see that your scene is kind of like has this aliasing effect. Now, aliasing is basically, you might not see it with the depth of field, but aliasing is when you see those jaggies, like when you see like those jagged edges on your 3D objects. If just like a line, like a diagonal line, doesn't look like a clean diagonal line, but it kind of has, almost looks like stepping stones, like they're just kind of like a little jagged. Anti-aliasing all the way at the top is what fixes that, and it kind of like, it blurs those edges and it makes things just look just a tad bit smoother. That's very noticeable in VR. Not very noticeable on a small screen, but I almost 100% recommend you turn on anti-aliasing up here at the top, and use the extreme quality or whichever setting you want. That is very noticeable in VR. You will see very pixelated things, so that helps a lot with that. Then after bloom you have color grading. So this one is also pretty important for VR, and let me just explain what tone mapping is. So tone mapping, what it does is, now say we had like a really bright object. Let's say if my sun, I make it like kind of very, very bright. And say if I didn't have tone mapping on, color grading, you'll notice that like things get so bright that it actually, you can't see the details anymore. Now, the way that things work, like in physics in general, like nothing's ever brighter than the light source, especially not like, even if the light source is beaming on a perfectly white object or whatever, it's rarely ever brighter than the light source itself. When you do color grading and you use a tone mapper, what that does is, you notice it kind of neutralizes the colors. Nothing is ever over bright. It brings it all, like all the brights and all the lows, and it kind of like makes it a lot more natural to the human eye. So there's two types, there's neutral and there's filmic. Now when you do filmic, you can see that it has much more of a contrast. So it's kind of much more like, surreal, kind of like film-like. But yeah, basically what it does is, tone mapping takes anything that's kind of like over bright and it neutralizes the colors, and it makes sure that everything in the scene, all the details can be visible, even slightly, but at least nothing is just a straight white, like, brightness. So it tone maps it. So I'm going to put my sun back to the color it was before. It's not as noticeable of an effect like classically, but you'll notice that in VR, tone mapping can give it that extra little bit of like realism. You'll notice without tone mapping, you see like how bright these screens are, these lights, everything kind of like is much more contrasting. When you do a little bit of color grading with the neutral, now obviously you could tweak over here, you can then tweak the exposure and such. So when you do the neutral tone mapper, that's like as close to film tries to kind of almost neutralize, desaturate the colors, and kind of map it to a way where it looks kind of more natural to the eye. Nothing too over bright, nothing too contrasting. Again, this is just an effect that you can choose to use any way you'd like. But having a good tone mapper as opposed to not is what kind of separates like a high quality production from like in a more realistic, like believable to the eye, to like a more like, okay, this is kind of cartoony and everything's there kind of bright and contrasted. And then you could tweak how much blacks you want. You see that? You could tweak how much whites and so forth. And you can really get like the exact look that you're going for. In this case, since we're doing something cartoony anyway, you don't have to even use one, or you can use the filmic one if you want to kind of have it still keep that kind of depth. And you can tweak the exposure if you want to make it a little brighter or not. But yeah. So that's without, and that's with. Now you'll notice not only does it just tweak the contrast and stuff, you can really tell on these lights. Notice how the blue color changes as well. It's not like this blue without the color grading. It's literally like the blue that you pull out of Microsoft Paint. It's like that cyan blue, like literally like the blue is blue, you know what I mean? But like when you do the color grading, you notice that like it finds more neutrals. And it just like you won't notice it when you're viewing it, but you'll definitely appreciate it more. You don't know exactly what you're appreciating more, but it'll look more realistic.
How'd you get your arrows to blink with that?
Oh, because it's playing right now. The scene is playing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the assets are like that. Next up, we got, so color grading is good. LUT is kind of a complicated concept, and I haven't yet figured out like the best ways to use it. But LUT, it takes like a special LUT texture, and what it basically does is it switches some colors out for some other ones, kind of. So you can I've seen people do like an autumn LUT, so it kind of gets rid of all the deep greens and it makes them kind of orangey and stuff like that. So LUT is like a way for you to kind of, instead of, imagine now you have like a scene and you have hundreds of assets and thousands of textures, right? So instead of like, if you wanted to make your scene look more autumn, like, or more winter or whatever, instead of going in and now you have to Photoshop and color correct every single texture and make it more orange instead of green, you can use something like LUT to just basically, pick a color and change that specific color to another color.
Well, you have one level as a flashback, you can make it sepia.
Very easily, instead of like just literally re-importing double textures and it's a mess. So, and yeah, you could you could change the contribution amount. So you could make a LUT. No, I don't know how you actually make these, but yeah, I'm not that experienced with the LUT, but I know that great thing about the LUT is that you can change the amount of contribution, so you can just kind of fade to a certain color scheme like that. That's that. And chromatic aberration, it kind of does this. If you can see, it kind of like pulls the edges like that. Yeah, so I don't know. You can also put the lens dirt on that as well. Yeah, it just kind of grabs the edges and it makes them kind of like almost have tunnel vision a little bit. I can also add like a little extra effect. Just a very subtle one, but it kind of makes it, chromatic aberration makes, this front of what you're looking at very focused. And the edges kind of get a little blurred.
I almost feel like you're like running, like speeding up or something.
Kind of. I mean, definitely when you do it in and out like that. But yeah, you can definitely tell it has a little bit of that tunnel vision with the chromatic aberration. Then grain, I think, is pretty self-explanatory. Kind of add the film grain. And
I tweaked the lighting and then his eyes are just pink.
yeah, and it's also pretty laggy.
Why? Do you know? Like it just said tweak the post-processing thing.
It's too much post-processing. You got too many on top of each other. Vignette, what it does is it kind of darkens the edges. Masked mode lets you pick your own texture on how you want to kind of like darken these edges. But that's basically what it does. See that? So that's also another little addition, like if you want to kind of just add just a little more something to it. Dithering, I'm not actually sure. I kind of forgot what that means. But yeah, so this is like, you're going to be doing like this for sure when you're polishing up your project and you want it to get that final look. And it's very powerful. You could do very, very cool effects with it. So as a comparison, let's just take our without post-processing, right, with post-processing. So notice the difference. It's very noticeable. Without it, it's definitely still a dope project, but with it, it's like, whoa, that's a dope project. And personally, it's one of my favorite things to kind of play around with and mess around with. Yep. We still have about 20 minutes, so is there anything any of you would like to go over? Anything to refresh? Anything you're curious about?
Do you recommend more 3D modeling website?
More 3D model websites?
Maybe specific to characters?
Specific to characters. Well, if you want to make your own characters, have you tried using Fuse to make? You can make them.
Cool.
Fuse.
Who shows that?
Adobe Fuse.
Yeah. You have to have Creative Cloud, or have to be in the whole Adobe suite. So Fuse is right here. It's in beta right now. But you create mixable quality characters, kind of, basically. They will definitely be doing more with it soon.
I think they've already done a lot.
It's still beta though.
So you change the features and
Yeah, you make it into whatever you want it to look like. You can change eye distance, skin color, you can build up the face.
like Photoshop.
Yeah. It's really easy to use. Really
Yeah, so you could show you a video.
I don't have it on me, but you can download it. It's in Adobe.
more.
It's in Adobe.
They can easily and
Go.
quickly create customized 3D characters.
You don't have
on a
Adobe?
new desktop
You
app.
buy Adobe.
Adobe
How can you
Fuse,
not have
CC
Adobe?
Preview. And then
Oh,
incorporate
you
those
can buy
characters
it
into your
with
designs.
No, I know.
You can do everything, the cheek side, nose. It's literally like an RPG game editor kind of.
$19 a month.
Body,
Can you,
It's not that bad.
They have non-human characters? They have non-human characters?
Yeah, they have fantasy characters too, elves and trolls and
works by scrubbing through an entire animation. Now you can play around with the head and the eye placement and adjust the perspective and even the lighting, giving you that flexibility you need so you end up with that exact look that you want. and you can work with it just like any other layer in Photoshop. Just imagine all the possibilities for bringing 3D characters into your work.
But yeah, that was pretty dope. Then there's for characters. Oh, what's it called? It's a pretty old one, but they've been kept updating it. Oh man, I forgot. I definitely don't think it's. Oh, DAZ 3D. That's one that has all sorts of characters, anatomically correct as well.
How do you spell it?
DAZ 3D, DAZ 3D. They have more than just characters too. DAZ 3D. Yeah, so they have dope stuff. I can't vouch for them because I've never used it in Unity, but I know people use it all the time for. Now you can see what they're using for here. It doesn't seem like they're used that often for games though, but. Yeah, look at this centaur.
Wow. $90.
Yeah, but you see how many different types you get? Look at that. Very detailed stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, those are the only ones that I know for characters. They have their own tool set too. It's like a program, and then you can tweak the hair and whatnot. Again, I don't know how well it works with Unity. But you can probably look that up. Can I import DAZ characters into Unity? And I'm sure someone's thought of that and answered it. So you should put the post-processing effects in your VR music video
Oh yeah. Okay.
to make it look really dope.
Cool. So can you show me? Can I show you the?
Mhm.
Can you do that cat thing?
What do you want to do with the cat?
Well, I just was trying to figure out how to get. I was trying to do all the different things that we did in class. So I wanted to like just be able to drop cats in, hit a button and drop cats in.
Oh yeah.
But I couldn't even get the cat to just work. So
Let me see. Open project.
Just this one.
See.
Right. So I have that cat.
Cartoon cat. FBX. And then just put the
different.
Where's the cat itself though?
Yeah, I don't know.
Let me see. What happens if you just pull one of these? Oh, yeah. So what did you get to work?
So it just didn't do anything.
It didn't have the animator. So you put this cat animator onto the cat, I'm assuming. And then it should. Yeah.
So then this, let's do this. So this has all the different animations. So is it supposed to go through all those?
Yeah, I think it's just going one by one, and then when it finishes, it goes back to the beginning.
Okay.
But yeah, you take, I don't know why they separated it like this, it's kind of weird. But yeah, I mean, you just take a cat, oh, we already had one. Maybe make it a little bigger. 1.5 maybe?
Yep.
And then, yeah, if you wanted to like instantiate them, that thing, you would, first thing, you save this cat as a prefab.
Uh-huh.
So all the way up here, just, save it as a prefab. Yeah. So then look to that script where we had, which script was that we did? Just put it, just look through it. What do we have here? We have, is it, was it in Hello World? Just click it once, just to see what we had there. No, we have, what was it, ball? Yeah. Yeah, that was the barrel prefab. See that?
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
Yeah, so just put that. So just open that script,
Mhm.
and just.
Change the div object.
I would say copy the whole script, make a new script, and paste it in there, and then just cut out all the ball related things that you don't need.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
Alright. Yeah.
Yeah, but it should be in there, and then just where it says barrel prefab, that you pull the cat in there technically.
Okay.
And then it should be the same thing for the button on press and all that.
Okay.
Yeah, it should all be in there.
Cool.
这个 cactus 做成能切的。对对对。诶。
我这个 Sky 我都4000多了，我觉得还是有些。
在 Game View 里面的。
还是。
好像，你在哪里找的这个？你在 Import 上这个是，就是你 Sky 吗？你的 image 在哪里？这是你的 image 吗
image 在外面，就是上面那个 image，但底下这个，就这个旁边绕了一圈是这个。不画。
然后这个呢？
还是这样。
打开了8000了 ，compression 在那些 compression 它可能，就不会有 compression。那有可能是。
哦，是不是重新？
就是它本来的 image 可能就没这么大，但它这个就可以看，你还 zoom 到很大很大地方，就是 zoom 到差不多这样。
你zoom 到200了。
不是，它那个 skybox 本来就很大，你可能要找一个比这个更高清的图片。
那是用要多少？
一般8000是最好的了，就是。
Do you guys work?
Not yet. I'm still. So. Go right here. I want to.
Yes, you got to put that script onto. Okay, so first of all, never name your scripts like with a space.
Okay.
So yeah, just. Yep, and then save that. Yeah, and now go back to your script. Actually, you need to double click that now because it's technically another file.
Oh.
Yeah, and then there you need to name the class the same as the name of your file. So
As.
drop cat. Yeah,
Oh.
instead of just cat, because then it won't know. Yeah.
And what is that?
Cat, not cop. Cat. Yeah. So it's the name of your script in the program.
Okay.
So it needs to be the same as the name of the file. It's just how it is.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
Is that it?
yeah,
So go all over.
should work. So now go back to your scene. Put that script on something like the main camera, maybe.
Okay.
Doesn't matter as long as it's in the game. Yep, click that main camera now. And then there you should see barrel prefab. So you want to pull your little cat in there.
Yep.
Cat keys, yeah. Yeah, and then press play. And then just when you do your click, make sure you click it in the game view. So click there. I think they're falling. They're just falling somewhere else.
Okay.
So let's just see where your scene is.
Oh, there might be like outside of the walls kind of.
Yeah. So just find them like. Oh, also the other thing, the cats technically do not have a collider. Yeah, they're right here. They don't have a rigid body.
Oh, right.
Remember, so they won't fall.
Okay.
So you should on your cat right here,
Mm-hmm.
just add like a sphere collider maybe. It's gonna be funny. They're gonna roll around. Yeah, and a rigid body. Yep. Now try that. So they just fall like behind there. So just click it in the
might
game.
fall
menu.
behind those
Yeah.
walls and everything too, right?
Just click it.
Oh,
See?
there they are. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. They're walking around.
Now, if you wanna, oh, they're actually rolling around.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then if you want to change where they actually, show up, right now it says 0, 0, usually. One way to make it like exactly where maybe the main camera is or where the script is attached to, and then you move that object to where you want them to fall, technically, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah,
because right now they're just going off of like a set number, which is 0
Yeah.
in the scene. But you probably want them to happen in a certain place.
So can you have them fall like wherever you click?
Well, okay, that's one way to do it. You can, but it's a little bit trickier. But I would recommend you do it like based on, say, where main camera is. So if the main camera is here, maybe they'll fall right there. Or maybe you don't want this script on the main camera. Maybe you want it. You want to take this. Just remove that component. Just make a dummy object, like a cube or whatever.
Or if you just do an empty object?
You could, but just so we can see where it is. Let's say you want them to fall here, so you're going to control basically where this cube is.
Okay.
Paste that component. Yeah, so now in your script you just have to make one small change. So you, instead of just random range,
Yep.
and this is in effect, 0 plus the random range, you want the transform position dot x plus random range. So that's our current, whatever the script is attached to, the x plus the random range, then the y is all 50 up. That can stay the same.
Okay.
And then the same thing here, transform position dot z plus random range. So then it's going to take the current position of whatever this component is attached to and drop them there plus the random.
Within a certain radius.
Yeah, and then just click, and then you should see them fall where they're supposed to go. There.
Gotcha. Alright.
So now if you move that cube, wherever you want, and you click, they're gonna fall over there.
Okay. And if you didn't want
You
to
get it?
fall randomly, you could just take out that random range.
Yep.
Just have it. And
Yeah, you can drop this one by one. Yeah, that's how you do it.
Cool. Alright, awesome. Can I change the color of the cats? Or is that
Yeah, like you want to just do a random, like
14节
random color, or
Well, I want to make them black.
yeah, you should be able to just find the cat's material.
我们一起做东西。
It's bound to be in here
但
somewhere.
我不可能待太
Cat,
久，
there it is.
跟你待几个小时，我回来，
为什么呀？
最近身体不是感冒，
Maybe like
而且我就在家里做东西比较舒服，因为我
yeah,
家里
and
面
it looks like that. Yep.
哇，对啊。
你等，不过没事。
Maybe blacker.
就很搞笑，我以为先发的不是这样，没看到被你发
You'll
到。
lose some of the feature details when
我以
you
为
make it
先找
completely
到
black,
的
you know what I
这
mean?
个，
Or you could take this into Photoshop.
我也不知道。
女强人。
That's why you change it to black.
Yep,
Yeah.
and then just to preserve the colors of the details, you know what I mean?
Gotcha. Yeah.
That's one way to do it, yeah.
So this started as a flat image, and they kind of like stitched it around.
So that's called UV mapping. So when a 3D artist makes a 3D object, they flatten out that 3D object
Yep.
as a 2D plane, and then you can texture it. So yeah, basically it's like every texture has to be 2D, and then the UV map tells that 2D texture how it should wrap around a 3D object.
Okay. But they actually start. So that when they're designing this, they started with the 3D.
They start with the 3D object,
And
yeah,
flatten it
and
out.
then they flatten it out. Yep.
Cool.
And then they either paint straight on here, or sometimes they paint on in 3D. Depends on the tool they use.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. Interesting. All right. Great. Thanks.
Hey, I have a question.
Okay. Your project is like
No, it's a very easy question. I just want to make sure.
huge project.
No, I'm using the Unity default plane for my texture, and that, as you can see, they have like
Mhm.
tiny shit tons of polygons, but I remade a plain blender that only has
Yeah.
one. Do you think it's worth it? Do you think it would slow down? Like,
I mean, not that much, but
it looks like it's a lot, you know.
it does, but it's not.
So you don't think I should worry about it? Because I would spend like an hour replacing.
Nah, I think you're fine.
I also want to show you.
Did you figure out your rotation thing?
Nah. Want to show you this? Guess what? You can cut the cactus.
What?
It's just gonna be like a hidden surprise there. Maybe like later on, some weird kids will want a cactus sandwich, and then you're like, shit.
You should let me cut the customer.
No, a lot of people has already asked.
Oh, seriously, just like you just turn to the customer and then you just throw the knife in his head. And he'll be like, "Ow!" And he'll pull it out and like give it back to you.
No.
Don't you need this? Come on, that'd be great.
That would.
Make it a cheat.
With a million other things to work on. Not this. I can't
Got that song in my head now.
get.
I know, I've been singing it all week.
All right.
Alright, cool. So we're not. I won't be here Saturday. Well.